Good. Mr. Roop,
Yes,
I was wondering, did you enjoy wrestling as yourself or more as the Gladiator?
I like being Bob Roop. It took a while. I mean, that's a good question because the Bob Roop that I really am and the Bob Roop persona that I developed of being really arrogant and you know, I had this education and great coaching and all this, and I have an advantage over someone like Dusty Rhodes, whose dad, unlike my father being a PhD college professor, Dusty Rhodes' father dug ditches, you know, and there's no way that someone with that kind of background, I mean, you know, okay, people like him, but it's probably because they feel sorry for him. You know, and people have no reason to feel sorry for me because, or identify with me because, you know, I've had a better upbringing than most people. And so there's no way, and, you know, I did that arrogant shtick, and, you know, people, I didn't have to yell and scream. You know, I just talked like I absolutely believed it. And people go, that's SOB, you know, God, he looks like he believes that. And, you know, I dress nice, and I had my hair, you know, I was presentable. You know, I acted the part, let's put it that way. Well, in reality, I'm a middle-class person. I was raised in a middle-class family and with middle-class values, and not, you know, I've never ever felt that I was better than anybody else, or worse, for that matter. So that was Bob Roop. I mean, this is my real name, but I was putting on an act because I had all these promoters tell me as I was coming up in the business, you got to yell and scream in your interviews if you're going to get people mad at you or whatever. You know, I watched, and these guys, these promoters, the ones that were telling me this just really weren't very good promoters because, you know, they wanted you to insult the fans. You're all a bunch of, you know, scumbags out there, you know, and, you know, people, if I'm watching and somebody yells at, man, I get, now with remotes especially, I change the channel instantly. I'm not going to sit here and listen to some idiot insult me. So, you know, I want to develop, I never was comfortable doing that. And it's funny, I shouldn't use, a good buddy of mine is Baron Von Raschke, Jim Raschke. We were and we met before either one of us ever got in the business. We were on the All-Army team and the All-Service team together in the Olympic year of 1964. And we just went to a reunion earlier, well, in the middle, or actually the third week in June at Waterloo, Iowa at the Dan Gable Wrestling Museum. And we were talking, and Jim's wife told me that Jim never could do an interview as Jim Raschke because he couldn't yell and scream because he's just really, I hope Jim's not listening, he'd probably be mad at me, but he really he's just a very nice, gentle guy, and he's a gentleman, and he was raised, you know, he's really decent, soft-spoken, humble, terrific amateur wrestler and pro. He had a great career in both. I mean, he was the first American.
Very educated, too.
Yeah, very smart guy. He was the first American to ever win a medal at the world level in Greco-Roman wrestling. He took third in 1962. No American had ever won a medal at the World Games or an Olympics, which Olympics is just a World Games every 4 years.
Uh-huh.
But they have 3 other World Games in between the Olympics, and no American had ever, at any weight, had ever won a medal until he did. So he was, you know, he was very accomplished. But his wife Bonnie told me, she says, "Oh, Jim couldn't really, you know, they wanted him to yell and scream, but he said it wasn't until he became Baron Von Raschke, you know, and he put on his persona of this Nazi, whatever he was. I never actually saw an interview with him.
Seen a bunch of them. I'll tell you one thing. Not to cut you off, but one thing about Baron Von Raschke, when he was in that character, when he first got the character, he was supposed to be the heel. But the crowd, this guy's got an aura about him that you can't not like him. So eventually, AWA figured, you know, we got to turn this guy babyface because the crowd's cheering him on, and right now it looks like they're cheering on a guy who wants to be a Nazi, you know. So let's make him let's have him side with Sergeant Slaughter or somebody, and you know, so that's what happened. Yeah, you're right about it being too nice.
I'm not surprised a bit because he's really a really decent guy, and you know, I know that every one of us that came from the amateurs that I know of, except him, and maybe Bob Backlund's another one, that didn't get into some of the detours and that you can get into when you go into any kind of entertainment or show business or pro athletics. I mean, even in amateur athletics with the Tour de France, and I was just reading today in the paper about the whole Bulgarian and half the Greek weightlifting teams who have all been disqualified from the Beijing Olympics for doping. So, you know, and that's not the only kind of drugs there are, though. You know, when you have the wrestling business, in a lot of ways, is like being a rock star. You know, you have the same kind of things going on with, you know, girls and booze and drugs and you know, open doors that people want to be around you and they're willing to, you know, do whatever to do that. And so it's very tempting. I don't think Jim ever went down that street at all, whereas some of us did.
No, I never heard anything about it.
No, he was very well grounded when he got started. How he started out, Vern started him out hauling a ring and being a referee, and you know, I had a chance to start up there and with Gagne, or to go to Florida. And growing up in Michigan, which is very similar to Minnesota weather, I said I think I'll take Florida. and if they wanted me to start out as a referee and haul a ring, I had a degree, I would have done something else, because, you know, if I haven't proved myself that I'm at least worthy to begin as a neophyte wrestler, I mean, if you want to beat me every night, that's fine, but at least start as a neophyte. If I haven't earned, you know, through 13 years of blood, sweat, and tears as an amateur, and being on an Olympic team and a national champion and a 4-time All-American, if I haven't earned the right to at least begin, like, say, that promoter's son over there who hasn't done any of that stuff, and he gets to start as a neophyte, well, I don't even get to start as a neophyte, well, then I'm not interested. And really I wasn't. But they, of course, they didn't do that in Florida. They gave me a pretty good push to start with.
Yep.
I mean, within the limits of what I was capable of doing.